I turned 23 on a rainy Thursday. I had just finished my second shift, 4 hours of tutoring math, at the campus learning center, when my phone buzzed with a text from my father. I thought it might be a birthday message, something simple like, "Happy birthday, Amelia. Love you." Instead, it said, "Sold your laptop. Madison needed a new phone. Also, you'll cover her tuition this semester, $6. Transfer by Friday." I stopped walking. My boots sank deeper into the muddy sidewalk as the wind slapped cold rain against my face. I blinked at the screen, reread the message, and felt a tight pressure build behind my eyes. I stared at that one line, "Sold your laptop." The same laptop I had bought with 6 months of weekend babysitting and graveyard shifts at a 24-hour diner. My entire portfolio for graduation gone. My hands shook. I texted back, "That's not happening." Less than a minute later came the reply. "Fine, cut off, move out by Sunday." That was it. No happy birthday, no let's talk. Just a cold command, like I was a business transaction gone sour. I stood under the dripping awning of a closed bookstore and suddenly realized I had no room in that house. I never really had. The house I grew up in always felt like a hotel where I overstayed my welcome. Madison, my younger sister, got the warm spotlight. New clothes, new car, weekend trips. My sacrifices paid for her luxuries, and I was expected to smile through it. But this selling my lifeline, expecting me to pay thousands for someone else's tuition, and kicking me out on my birthday. This wasn't neglect. This was war. My breath fogged in the cold air. I wanted to scream, cry, collapse, but I didn't. I took one long, slow breath and opened the Notes app on my phone. At the top, I typed evidence. Every transaction, every text, every time they took from me. I didn't know where I was going to sleep that night. I didn't know how I was going to finish my final projects without my laptop. But one thing was crystal clear: I would not be the victim they counted on. I was done being the obedient daughter. I was done being useful and invisible. They wanted to cut me off perfect. They had no idea what I was about to do next, and I would make sure they regretted every dollar they ever stole from me. I did not go back to the house that night. I took the long way to Lily's apartment, dragging my soaked backpack and whatever strength I had left. She didn't ask questions when she opened the door, just pulled me into a hug and whispered, "You can stay as long as you need." I hadn't cried until then. I broke down in her hallway, not because I was weak, but because someone finally gave me permission to feel something other than exhaustion. That night, lying on her couch, wrapped in a too-thin blanket, I thought about everything that led to this point. My parents had always operated under one unspoken rule: Amelia handles it. Whether it was money chores or keeping Madison out of trouble, I was the fixer. The dependable one. The extra adult in the house. At 14, I was tutoring other kids to earn grocery money. At 16, I was putting gas in my mom's car. By the time I turned 18, I was already paying rent to live in my own childhood bedroom, while Madison, 2 years younger, got her room repainted every time she changed favorite colors. I was told that Madison needs more attention, that you're stronger, Amelia, and we're counting on you to set the example. But there's only so much strength one person can offer before they begin to disappear under the weight of expectations. It wasn't just financial, it was emotional theft. I was never allowed to be tired, never allowed to say no. When I got a scholarship, my parents made me give them half for family needs. When I started working part-time, they borrowed my paychecks without asking. I was gaslit into believing I was selfish for keeping anything for myself. Meanwhile, Madison got everything she asked for, and if I even questioned it, I was labeled jealous or bitter. That was their favorite word for me, bitter. But bitterness doesn't grow from nowhere. It's planted by betrayal and watered by neglect. I don't know if you've ever felt like the background character in your own family. If you have, if you've ever had your loyalty weaponized against you, type yes in the comments. You deserve to be heard. And if you believe stories like this matter, go ahead and subscribe, because what I'm about to share next will stay with you long after the story ends. There was one night I'll never forget. It was winter break of junior year. I had just gotten a bonus from my second job and was saving for a used car. I hid the cash under my mattress. The next morning, it was gone. My mom said she had to use it to help Madison join a cheer camp. You'll understand one day, she told me. But I already did. I understood that my dreams were negotiable, and Madison's were not. I understood that my parents didn't see me as a daughter, but as a tool. The laptop they sold on my birthday, it wasn't the first thing they'd taken from me. It was just the first thing I wasn't willing to let go without a fight. That night, I sat at Lily's kitchen counter and opened a new folder on her laptop. I labeled it Operation Take My Life Back, because I knew exactly what they had taken, and I was ready to take it all back. Lily's living room became my war room. By Monday, the betrayal had calcified into clarity. I wasn't going to beg for understanding or closure anymore. I was going to build a case. My parents had always treated me like a disposable asset. Fine. I'd turn their transactions into evidence. I pulled up my email account and searched through 4 years of payment confirmations, transferred tuition funds, copies of rent receipts, and digital gift cards I had sent my mom for groceries, only to see Madison post new outfits and Starbucks hauls on Instagram the same day. I gathered screenshots of text messages where my father asked for a little help with bills, then demanded it hours later, followed by emotionally manipulative guilt trips if I hesitated. They never said thank you. They only asked, took, and forgot. I built a folder called Receipts and filled it with every memory that used to sting, but now served a new purpose proof. Then came the biggest discovery. While digging through old documents saved on my cloud drive, I found a folder labeled Trust Fund, Grandpa James. I nearly dropped the mouse. I had forgotten all about it. My grandfather had passed when I was 15. He'd told me once that he wanted to leave something behind for my education, but I'd never seen a cent. I clicked through the files and saw bank transfers, multiple withdrawals totaling over $40,000 over the span of 3 years, all signed by my parents. My name was listed as the beneficiary. My hands trembled, but not from surprise. From rage. They hadn't just taken my earnings. They'd stolen my inheritance, something meant to empower me, and used it for themselves and Madison. The betrayal was now indisputable, so I did something symbolic. I printed out a few key screenshots and placed them inside a bright red folder I labeled The Truth. I left it on my parents' kitchen counter late Tuesday night. I knew they wouldn't be home until morning. They were attending some school event for Madison, of course. I walked quietly through the house, heart racing as I passed the bedroom that used to be mine, now stripped bare. In the folder, I included a letter. It was not a plea. It was a statement. This is everything I've kept inside for years. Every dollar, every lie, every betrayal. You never saw me, but you will now. By the time the sun rose, I was back at Lily's, exhausted but calm. At 7:32 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text from my mother, Amelia. What is this folder? We need to talk. You're being very unfair. That word again, unfair. As if shining light on truth was a crime. I ignored it. At 8:05 a.m., another message from my father. You're overreacting. You're going to destroy this family. But I wasn't the one who had torn it apart. I was just holding up the mirror. At 8:41 a.m., Madison called. I didn't answer. But the voicemail, I saved it. She sounded confused, hurt, like maybe the curtain had been pulled back for her too. I didn't respond to their messages for 2 full days. Not because I didn't have things to say, but because I needed them to feel the silence they had given me for years. And sure enough, the longer I stayed quiet, the more frantic they became. The guilt-tripping turned into gaslighting. We didn't mean to hurt you. You could have just talked to us. This is not how families solve problems. But this wasn't about solving problems anymore. This was about accountability. On Thursday morning, I got a call not from my parents, but from my grandmother, the one person in our family who had always treated me like I mattered. Her voice was trembling. Amelia, sweetheart, did you know your parents withdrew money from the trust your grandfather left you? I paused, stunned. You knew about the trust, she took a breath. I was a co-signer, but I trusted your father to handle it. I didn't realize he had taken so much. I felt something in me snap into place, not like a break, but like a lock turning. This wasn't just emotional damage. This was legal theft. My grandmother, furious and heartbroken, promised to get the family attorney involved. Within 24 hours, she had scheduled a mediation meeting at her home. My parents had no idea she was the one who requested it. When I walked into her living room that Saturday morning, they were already seated, their expressions tight with forced civility. My father's smile was brittle, my mother's eyes full of practiced hurt. Madison was there too, arms crossed, eyes darting. I sat down across from them and said nothing at first. My grandmother placed a manila folder on the table, copies of the trust documents, Amelia's original beneficiary terms, and bank statements, highlighting every unauthorized transaction. The attorney, a quiet man with sharp eyes, began reading. My parents shifted uncomfortably. My mother interrupted. "We only used the money because Amelia always said she wanted to help Madison succeed." I looked her straight in the eye. "Wanting to help doesn't mean you get to steal from me." My father raised his voice, called me ungrateful, accused me of tearing the family apart. But I didn't flinch. Not this time. "You tore this family apart when you decided my hard work belonged to everyone but me." Then Madison, for the first time in years, spoke up. "Is it true about the trust?" The room went quiet. My mother turned to her, stammering, "Honey, we did it for you." Madison's face crumbled. "I never asked for that." I watched her realize in real time that the life she'd been gifted had come at my expense. That maybe I hadn't been bitter, I'd just been robbed. She stood up and walked out of the room, leaving nothing but the echo of footsteps and a stunned silence behind her. I didn't need revenge. That moment was justice enough. I gathered my things, nodded to my grandmother, and left. I wasn't sure what would happen next, but for the first time, I didn't feel like I owed them an explanation. The balance had shifted. The silence was mine now, and it was powerful. The days that followed were surprisingly quiet. No more texts. No more angry voicemails. My parents didn't reach out again, not even to demand forgiveness. And for once, I didn't chase closure. I didn't need it anymore. I spent the next week moving into a small studio apartment, downtown, bare walls, mismatched furniture, and a leaky faucet that sang at night. But it was mine. Paid for by me. Not stolen. Not leveraged. Not guilt-tripped into existence. Just mine. Madison didn't contact me either. I didn't expect her to. But one afternoon, a letter arrived, handwritten in uneven script, folded carefully in an envelope with no return address. Inside was a single line, "I didn't know what they did. I'm sorry you had to carry it alone." It wasn't enough to rebuild a relationship, but it was enough to acknowledge the wreckage. And maybe that was the first stone in a bridge I didn't know if I wanted to cross yet. I started seeing a therapist, something I'd always told myself I didn't have time for. Turns out, healing takes time and space. I talked through the resentment, the exhaustion, the years of being the strong one, until I was too tired to feel anything but numb. And slowly, I started reclaiming the parts of myself they'd chipped away at. I signed up for a night class in design, something I used to love before survival became my full-time job. I kept the red folder labeled "The Truth" in a locked drawer, not out of fear, but as a reminder the truth didn't destroy my family. The lies did. Sometimes I walk past their neighborhood just to prove to myself I don't need to stop there. That I'm no longer stuck orbiting a house that never felt like home. I'm still learning what safety feels like, what love feels like when it's not conditional, when it doesn't come with a receipt. And I've realized something: family isn't who shares your last name. It's who shows up when everything falls apart. It's who hands you a key, not who changes the locks. So if you've ever been the Amelia in your story, the one expected to give without question, to stay silent out of loyalty, know this. You are not selfish for choosing peace. You are not cruel for walking away. You are not weak for saying enough. Your truth matters. Your boundaries matter. And if this story made something inside you stir, if it reminded you of your own quiet strength, drop a yes in the comments. Subscribe for more stories like this. Because out there, someone needs to hear what you've survived, and they're waiting to find their own way out.